Today in the EU, on the campaign trail with socialist frontrunner Nicolas Schmit. The current EU Commissioner for Jobs and Social Rights, Luxembourg's Nicolas Schmit, was touring EU member states to rally support for national socialist parties and strengthen his party's standing ahead of June's EU elections. Schmit chose to visit Barcelona and Vienna, but what happened during his tour? Hello and welcome. I am Evi Giori, and this is Today in the EU. Our politics reporter Max Griera followed Nicolas Schmit on his tour, so let's see how it was. Max, you just came back from Barcelona and from Vienna. You followed Nicolas Schmit during his campaign too after Ursula von der Leyen. How was it this time, and how different it felt from the experience you had following von der Leyen?
You know, the first thing I could see is the amount of people around him. So with von der Leyen, for example, you have this huge entourage, all these security guards, which basically, you could not really reach to her one-on-one, both in Split and in Rome, in fact. While with Schmit, it was more informal, right? He was walking around the streets of Barcelona and Austria without being noticed, because of course he's not known like von der Leyen as Commission President is. So he has more freedom. So that would be the first difference that I realized. But at the same time, I feel like Schmit, the purpose of the campaign, like von der Leyen, is to rally, in a way, his own parties, all the socialist parties around him. I feel like he also seeks to cement his position as lead candidate, because during his campaign trail, he's having outside of like press conferences. So really, one-on-one meetings with socialist party leaders at the regional and national level. Because, let's remind ourselves that Nicolas Schmit, nobody knew him pretty much before he became Spitzenkandidat. He was the commissioner, and he is the commissioner for Jobs and Social Rights. So of course, he's known, but not to the same level as other candidates could have been. At the same time, also with von der Leyen, you can also see how the national parties want to show Schmit around, saying, look, the Commission, Europe has come to us. We have powerful people in Brussels. He's come here to visit us. He cares about our issues too.
So then his visit had a more national element into it.
Especially in my visit to Barcelona, that the topics would pretty much located, let's say. So in Catalonia, we didn't talk about the Green Deal as a whole, for example, or we didn't talk about, these big issues that are pressing at the EU level, like the Commissioner for Defense or Ukraine military aid. But rather, the journalists, for example, they focused a lot on asking questions about the region, about Catalonia, such as when will Catalan become an EU official language? Another thing that they kept asking is about the amnesty law. And like Schmit, he doesn't really have competence over this amnesty law and evaluating it. But yet, journalists kept asking him that because in a way, they don't see him as this lead candidate, perhaps, or as Commissioner for Jobs and Social Rights. They just see him, I believe, as this figure representing the Commission, Europe, Brussels.
Yeah.
So like in that sense, you could also see how, even when meeting with people from the Catalan Socialist Party or when meeting with Austrian socialist leaders, you would have all the social media teams, all the campaign teams around taking videos to create digital content.
Yeah.
They also called local press to show him around.
To make him a bit more relevant with the regions that he was visiting.
Exactly, to make him known.
And in Barcelona, you went home. The question is, why Barcelona? What was the intention there?
So indeed, it's a bit of an interesting spot to pick because he had already been in Spain, in Madrid before, and he will be in Madrid again the 5th of June. But of course, I think there's a very simple reason for this, is that the Catalans recently voted their new regional government. The Socialists won, and now the question is whether the Socialists will be able to form a government or not, because they want to form a government to kick out the independentist, nationalist Catalan forces out of government. They've been in government for a long time. So I think the European Socialists decided to go there to show support, that they're, behind them. And most importantly, to show Catalans, through Catalan press, that the Catalan Socialists have the backing and the strength of the whole of the European Socialists. Yeah. Especially now ahead of the European elections, to really rally more support in their polling somehow. So, for example, an MEP, Javi López, he's the head of list of the Catalan Socialist. He was saying, indeed, what I'm saying, that it's good that Schmit was there to show that the socialists are very strong at the European level and to really try to gather more support.
I think it has a real impact because we can first show that we are talking about European elections with European leaders, with European ideas, and with European allies as national politicians here that after we will go to the European Parliament. And we can show the conversation that it's not only about our local problems, it's about shared and common threats, challenge, but also solutions.
But then it's true that at the end, the press only asks questions about the region.
So what did he do in Barcelona?
We started the visit, we met Schmit in this beautiful Art Nouveau building, very famous in the center of Barcelona, that hosts a technical school to learn, manual skills and digital skills also. Then we received a tour there in Catalan, so we needed a simultaneous translation. We had a translator for that, for Schmit, because I'm Catalan, so I could understand everything, which was great. Then we visited that. He had a very small casual chat with some of the students. And actually, before the visit, he also had a short meeting with the socialist mayor of Barcelona, Jaume Collboni. They discussed local issues such as housing. That's a big problem in Barcelona, all these Airbnbs that are kicking out locals from their homes because rent increases. But not only tourism, it's also about now digital nomads coming to live in Barcelona. So that's a big topic that they discussed. And then after that, it was time for, official meetings in the Catalan Socialist Party headquarters.
And who did he meet there?
First, he met with the Catalan socialist leader and possibly the next president of Catalonia, Salvador Illa. They met also with Javi López, the lead candidate of the Catalan socialists. I don't know exactly what they talked about, but for sure about regional issues and the future of the commission after June's elections. After that, they also had a meeting with trade unions. That's something very interesting to see, that Schmit is really trying to balance a lot of meetings with trade unions, but also with industry.
Why is he doing that?
He's doing that because, first of all, he's the commissioner for jobs and social rights. So he's famous among trade unions. That's his forte, let's say. When you talk to national socialist officials, they tell you this, that Schmit is a great citizen candidate because he has such a great background on social rights and he's known among trade unions. And social rights and employment and jobs is also a key topic of the socialists' campaign. So I feel it fits into the narrative of their policy priorities to meet with these trade unions. And also with industry, because it's also part of their campaign to really boost Europe's competitiveness, which this is something that, by the way, they share with almost all parties. This is something that EPP and the Liberals are also saying. And then after that, he held a press conference with Catalan journalists from regional TV that, as I was saying, asked very local focused questions. And after that, he had a short, quick meeting with young people before heading to the airport. However, again, like with von der Leyen, it's not random youth. It's people from the party, members of the party, or young activists involved in the party.
And the next stop of this tour was in Vienna. What happened there?
So in Vienna, which I have to say it was my favorite because of what happened. So we started by going to a social housing project. In a way, the socialists right now, they're not in government in Austria, but they hold the Vienna city council already for 20 years or more or less. They wanted to show a bit the strength of the local socialists. So for that, they showed him this social housing project that was, sponsored and managed by the socialists in the city council. It's basically this place where they mix people with low income that need subsidies to live there with people that can afford the full price of the rent. So again, this fits into the narrative of the socialist campaign on social rights, equality, on really investing in people and in people's training to be able to boost European innovation. That's what also Schmit was saying later on during a rally with the Austrian socialists. Then now we get to my favorite part. Then we went on to a table football tournament. Organized by the Austrians. So basically here we saw Nicolas Schmit playing side to side.
Did he win?
No, he did not. He was playing hand-to-hand with the lead candidate of the Austrian Socialists, Andreas Schieder. They won the first round, but then they lost the second round, so they were disqualified. They were also playing against Andreas Babler, so there was also all this media attention on the match.
And speaking of Babler, you also had the chance to interview him, so let's hear what he had to say.
Would you say that the EU election is kind of a testing ground for the upcoming Austrian elections?
No, for us, every single election is a very important election, equal on which level she is taking to happen. So this is the election which is very important to have the big question about taxing systems, about ecological questions. It's very, very important election for us.
Okay, Max, I have a question stuck in my head. What did you think of the match?
I don't know. Personally, I liked it because it was an interesting way of campaigning, right? So that's why also I asked the European Socialists to maybe organize some sort of similar event in Brussels. Wouldn't it be very fun to have...
Just the different parties.
Exactly. This time between different parties in an amicable way. Imagine perhaps EPP chief Manfred Weber playing against S&D's president Irache Garcia. And on the football table, I thought, why are they doing this? And then I asked around, and some people told me that it's because the Socialist Party leader, the Austrian Socialist Party leader, likes to play this with a business association leader in a regular basis. So they had the idea to, also do this internally. But then I asked other people during the match, and then they said that there's no tradition behind it at all, that it's just that, they thought it would be something fun to do. So
it was fun.
It was fun. We don't know exactly why, whether it's a tradition or whether it's something that they just did for, out of nowhere. But again, as I was saying, I think this is something we should bring back to Brussels.
And you had the chance to interview him and have a one-on-one chat. What did he say about his future in Brussels?
After the table football tournament, they had, a usual rally with all the big figures speaking in German about, the EU policy, about Austria's roles in the EU, with all these speculations about Draghi maybe being a candidate, about, France and Germany perhaps not supporting von der Leyen. I asked him, well, do you think your chances are better now? He said, well, actually...
Well, I'm not every morning... waking up and say what are my chances today for... I am now in a campaign. I try to get the best result.
This shows, I think, in a way that he's well aware that he's not the front runner. Because then afterwards I also asked him, well, if you're not Commission President, which role would you have, a vice presidency? And then he said, yes, that would be logical. But in a way, for that to happen, he would be to be nominated by the Luxembourgish government, which is at the moment held by an EPP member party. So this means that the center-right would need to nominate him and give up their own commissioner that has been already promised to someone within the Luxembourgish government. So we'll need to see on that. In this sense, during the interview we had, he also said that at the moment EPP has so many national governments and the socialists keep losing control of national governments, that since the commissioners are nominated by the national governments, this means that while they will be probably the second biggest force in the European Parliament and they will be essential to, have a majority to pass legislation, in the Commission they will only have, 4 commissioners out of 27. So he was saying that the EPP should perhaps, give some commissioners to the socialists to have this balance, political balance. So maybe he could be part of this bargain.
Right. And if we were to look at the next days of the elections, where do the socialists position themselves and where would they pledge their alliance?
He said 3 things. First of all, a clear no to having a regulatory pause on the Green Deal. They want to boost it. They want to keep going on the same way, double down on it. That's a harsh red line, I feel, because a lot of parties, liberals, EPP, are calling exactly for that. Then second will be the social dimension in all policies. So everything that gets passed at the EU level needs to have, the social rights, the social dimension incorporated, embedded on it. Then third, he said, though, also the need to boost competitiveness, the need to have an industrial policy and to, double down on investments, both public and private. Again, as I was saying, this is something shared by many other political parties. And then the fourth, he said that the obvious, all-encompassing red line is not working with the far right. He said very clearly, once again, that if ECR sits at the table with EPP, the socialists won't support von der Leyen, won't support EPP at all. We're also really echoing the public debate at the moment on the need to protect Europe's industry from, foreign powers. He was also very hawkish against US and China products coming to Europe, and overflowing the market with cheap products that kill, in a way, Europe's industry. So that's going to be a key point. But then, while mentioning competitiveness and the need to invest in industry, he kept mentioning the need to, keep in mind the employee side, the social rights side. He said, competitiveness cannot be decided at the expense of employees.
Well, thank you very much, Max. I am Eva Chiori, and this was Euractiv's Today in the EU podcast. Visit Euractiv to stay on top of the latest news, sign up for our podcast newsletter, and if you haven't subscribed or followed us yet, you can find us on all streaming platforms. Also, make sure to leave a review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Your reviews help us a lot to spread the word about our work. This episode was produced by Miriam Sáenz de Tejada, Nicoleta Yonta, and me. Thank you for tuning in, and we will be with you again on Monday morning. As part of our commitment to accuracy, inclusion and transparency, Euractiv is part of the Trust Project.